This episode of Pushing Horizon Step by Step is brought to you by Never Second Europe. Science-backed fueling trusted by elite endurance athletes. Fuel smarter, go further. Hello everyone, welcome to the Pushing Horizon podcast. This is your host Ash. 7 months ago, this was just a dream. I had this idea, a quiet thought that maybe one day I can host conversations with athletes who really inspires me. But honestly, I never thought it would grow into what it had become today. I never really thought that I would sit across from so many incredible people. Some of them are like absolute legends of the sports. Share their stories with the world and in a way building a community. But here we are. Season 1 is, and the truth is, this season wasn't just about the podcast. It was the reason I finished my own ultras, because every single guest, every single conversation gave me something that I could carry on the race day. Jessie, everybody knows her. And I remember that I was editing her episode before my ultra. And that was probably the hardest thing physically I've done until today. After climbing 500 meters of elevations, my quads were struggling to get downhill. I could barely walk and quitting was on my mind. And then I remember her episode. And in her words, she said, quitting is forever. If you quit now, you cannot go back. And that kept me going. And that was in my head up until I finished the race. Lucy Bartholomew, right? So initially when I first talked to her, like, I'm nobody, right? I'm nobody. And then we talked. I still DM her. She replies strangely, right? So we talked back, shared some words. And in her episode, it got me feeling that whatever we feel, we are not a paid athletes or the elite level athletes, right? We feel the burned out. They feel the same way too. And resilience does not always mean that we have to push on, head on, and try to fight or keep running. Sometimes it just means to stop. And that was the lesson from that episode for me, was it's okay to stop, And that's what I've been doing. If there are some hiccups, some pains and aches, then I stop, because that is completely okay. And there's Eszter Csillag. Her story is amazing. And she showed me that it's never too late to chase your dreams. Because we all have dreams, but we are scared. We are scared that somebody will say something. Somebody will judge us. And she was there, mom, kicking and competing against all the top athletes around the world. And Megan Eckert. She had a world record of 603 miles, 6 days. When I first saw that, I was like, how the hell is that even possible? How can you run for 6 days and run 603 miles? That was amazing. She showed me that we could all push past the pain, our own doubt. And after talking to her, it made me realize that I can do this. And I did. I finished my first ultra, and that's probably one of my proudest moments. I cried. It was nice feeling 55 kilometer. I'm going to talk about it on the other episode, but not now for here. Let's continue with this. And Harvey Lewis. Everybody knows Harvey Lewis, right? He's an absolute legend. And when I was talking to him, it made me realize that he also have somebody he's looking up to. Bob Baker, he just finished Badwater at age 80, and he told me that he hopes he can run as Bob, who is going and crossing this hardest ultramarathon right now. And then there is Peter Mortimer. His story was probably the closest because he started running ultramarathons probably where I am right now. And he's going and doing this hardest thing out there, picking these toughest races. And this always kept me wondering what is next for me. But it wasn't only the elite that made this season powerful. Some of the most meaningful moments came from the runners who aren't always in the headlines, but their story deserves as much as light as all the other folks. Initially, when I contacted Dante, he just finished Cocodona, and I didn't know his story. And when we started talking, and we just immediately connected. With him, I just learned that if you are determined enough, then you can tackle the hardest of the thing that you want to do. He finished Cocodona by training for 2 years. And there is Cody, like, he was the first I talked about the Cocodona. And I remember he said that his quad was busted at 30 miles or 130 miles. That's the character, you know. Despite this toughest conditions, injuries, whatever, he finished it. And the resilience of him to continue. I know earlier I said about the Lucy's episode where sometimes resilience means to stop, but in this case, he pushed on. He finished 8th overall in that 2024 Cocodona. And then there is Harry Subritos. Man, I don't think I've met anybody so chill like him. He was so humble and so nice. He won Cocodona in 2024. And this year he took chances. And he taught me that sometimes we do have to risk for a high reward. Not always, but sometimes. And then there is Lindsey. She finished Cocodona despite having this breathing problem for majority of a race. And that's what the determination that she didn't give up, even though it was very tough for her. And there is Jenni. She ran a half marathon before she went and jumped into Cocodona 250. You know, all these conversations just made me realize that maybe sometimes it's us that limiting ourselves, you know. And there is Shelby. She does FKTs and everything. And she is out there breaking her own limit. And remembering that episode, she said that she wants to challenge her mind and her body and see how far she can go. And I think all of us should do that. We should challenge ourselves. I was also in this nice little comfortable bubble where I didn't want to do things. I was happy running 2 marathons. And after talking with all those folks, it made me realize that we live only once and we have to make best use of it. We have to explore. We have to go and try to do the harder things. If we fail, we fail. We try again. But we should never stop fighting or challenging ourselves and to see where is our limit. There is this famous quote I liked. Try and fail, but don't fail to try. And I'm keeping that in mind now as I am gearing and planning my next 3 years. There will be challenges. Maybe I'll fail on several of them, but I'm going to keep pushing forward. And there is John Graham. Man, he is wicked fast. You know, him, John Calabrese, and Ryan Hiscox. These folks has overcome and fought the alcoholism and have rebuilt their life. And now they are coaches. John is running sub 245. The other John is running and crossing these ultra marathons. And Ryan is going into this incredible sub 9, 10 Ironmans he's going on. And their story reminded me that, yes, we all have problems, but how do we deal with them? And how do we overcome it? And this made me realize of their resilience they had in them. They overcome their battle of alcoholism, and now they are an example for so many of us and an inspiration, because they are doing hard things and they are succeeding in it. One of my good friends, Elesa, there is usually this norm, like how a runner should look. She got into running to overcome the health issues she was having, and now she's an inspiration. She is defying everything and then finishing marathons. Kevin is the same way too. He's a very good friend of mine. We run together, and if you look at him, then you don't think he's a runner. But Kevin reminded me that you can be different, you can be unique, and you can blossom. Regardless of what everybody else thinks, right? It's us. And he's proving that he doesn't have to fit this mold of how a runner should look like. And Angus, my old friend, he was the first. I followed him like 2 years ago, and he was doing all these 100-milers, and I know he had a few DNFs earlier on, and then he kept pushing and pushing. And when I finally got to talk to him on the podcast, and I understood about the J Pause and everything, and I was like, man, he's going there and not giving up. He's going there and fighting again and again and again until he nailed it. He finally finished 100-miler. And recently he did run for 24 hours, 93 miles or something like that. His journey showed me that consistency pays off, but you have to work on it. Not all of us are born talented. Some of us work hard to get where we are. And Bobby, man, he's funny. He's a streaker. He's on his 2+ years of running, and then he goes and casually runs ultramarathons on weekends. And he's all about consistency, and sometimes I'm jealous because he had this consistency and doing things what he sets his mind to. And I'm trying to go and remember all the episodes that I'm doing. Yes, of course I'm looking at notes, but I'm trying to go and remember all the episodes. So I'm just have the name of who I have this episode with. And now Milton. His words is probably one of those early things that spark this interest in ultra running for me. He said, growth doesn't happen in comfort zone. And that has stuck with me until today. That's why maybe I'm trying different things. I'm organizing back at Ultra to see how far I can go, because that is way out of my comfort zone. And he's doing his 200 miles, I think, this year. He is doing the same thing. He is going there and getting out of his comfort zone, and he's going to cross it. I believe in him. And James, man, he's been running, and he runs fast, and he goes and randomly goes on this one of his trips, and then he does 100 Ks, 80 Ks. I remember when I was doing the podcast, On his 1,000 days continuous running, he did 80K just because he can, just to see how much far he can go. And he keeps pushing his limit. Despite injury, I know he had so much injuries, and earlier on, I was talking to him when he had rolled ankles. I was like, dude, you need to take it easy and take a day off. And he was like, nope. He kept running through it. I mean, that's probably something we also do, but he's just an example of consistency and just not giving up. He just goes on this one of his journey, and if you listen to his episode, then his words are so contagious. And then there is Bo. When I initially talked to him, he said that he doesn't really care about the clock. He just runs for memories, to have fun. And he's just doing that. He's on a streak as well, and he's just going and doing this thing every day, running and trying to have as much as fun as he can. And he's not chasing any times, or yes, he goes and does races and stuff like that, but for him it's all about having fun. I think that's what his advice to all the runners was: have fun. And I think that is very important, because if you don't have fun, if you don't love it, then it becomes a job. And sometimes jobs are not nice. Yes, consistency, dedication, commitment are all needed, of course, right? But if you don't love it, then at some point you don't want to do it. I love now. I had the same feeling, and now I love running. I love just going out. I don't have to check my watch because I stopped doing that since my last training block for my ultra marathon. I don't do it anymore. I don't look at how fast I'm running. I don't really care. I just want to run. I just love it. I just love that feeling when I'm free, when I don't have to think about anything. It's just me and the nature and the trails ahead of me. And well, the first person who I interviewed for this podcast, and yes, the sounds are not too good because I didn't know what I was doing back then, but all of this has happened because of her. If she had said no, I don't know where would it be. Would I have confidence to talk to or ask other person for the podcast? And she's amazing, Every day I look at her stories, her daily life, what went on and things. And then she runs by extremes, doesn't care about how fast she is running. And in her own word, a mile is a mile if you run at 3 minutes pace or at 7-8 minute pace. It's the same thing. And there are so many other folks, that have been part of this season. Halima, who just loves the races, and she's not there to run faster. She's just there to create memories, and she does all these epic races, and she's just there to have fun. She's in fact doing 3 back-to-back marathons in November. And then there is Claire. She's representing the back of the pack in the ultras, and she is doing hard things. And Kasha is probably has inspired me the most out of all, because when you listen to her journey, surviving cancer, eating disorder, and it made me sad when she said that she slept at night not knowing if she would wake up. That episode is heavy, and she is going and running marathons. She signed up for her Ironman as well next year. So, and that makes me happy. And I'm so pumped up by how she will do and where she will reach. Because if you listen to her episode, then she said she has no limits. That is very inspiring. Her story is amazing and inspiring. And there is Christine. Christine was the one who introduced me to Asha. And Christine's journey is so inspiring because it tells us that it's never too late to start anything. She learned swimming when she was in her mid-40s. And she is going and doing triathlons now. The fear of water, which I have tremendous, and I know this fear, and every time I go to this swimming pool and try to float on my back, and it scares the hell out of me, and I have no idea how she did it. And I really want to swim too, but I've never been able to let this fear subside. And I'm so proud of her that she was able to do it, and she's running marathons. And then there is Levi. He was the one who first gave me this idea for the backyard ultras, because when I talked to him, and the conversation was about all the backyard ultras he did and how he's going on and on and on until he's the last man standing. And I am sure that I'm not going to be the last person standing, but his journey gave me this idea to start this backyard ultra here in Berlin, and we are doing it. November 15th is the date. 14 people have signed up so far, so it's not an official race, but I'm so glad people are open to their ideas, and we're gonna have super fun. And there is Nick. He's out there challenging and seeing what the next top thing for him. He did Sedona 135, and next year 2026 he's running the 250 miles Cocodona, and I'm gonna wait and see how he does. And Abby, man, I think she's one of the nicest person I've talked through podcast too. Everybody's nice, right? I'm not saying somebody's nice and somebody's not, but she has 1.5 lungs. And she is a living proof that everything is possible. And then there is Alec. He is incredible and super chill, and he loves running, and he is wicked fast. And all the races he does, he's in a podium. That's a minimum. He's winning all of it. All the races that he's been winning. And when we were talking for the podcast, and he said he just loved running. And there is my dear friend Donna, who I've known for 8 years, I think. And she's just there to have fun. And then there is Mira. I remember the conversation with her. She's challenging for Kona. And then we were talking about it. And then I think I was looking at her episode earlier on. And she did what after Boston? So she went and she did the Ironman after Boston. That's insane. She has reminded me that sometimes we just have to dive head first and then figure it out. And Kate, I've been following her for a long time, and I can remember it clearly. Like at the beginning, she was only doing these small distances, and as I followed her, Johnny has been so progressive. She's been doing these longer and longer runs. She did 100Ks, and now she's working for 160 kilometers. I think that's the thing she wants to achieve. And her journey has showed me that Rome was not built in a day, you know. You need to be consistent, you need to be thorough, you need to be showing up every day. Like Milton said, I'd rather be consistently good than occasionally great. And then there is Jill, a gymnast who is chasing BQ. And then there is Jay, who is building a community with him and helping people. And there is my friend Elena. I remember when I met her in 2018, and at that time I was not doing these long distances. I mean, I was not even a runner back then. I used to play ultimate frisbee, and I got injured while playing diving for the disc. And then once I got injured, I saw what I can do. I'm very competitive, and that's how I got injured. I had so many injuries while playing ultimate frisbee as well. And I got into this Facebook group, You versus the World, and that's where I met Elena. And back then she was doing marathons, and I was like, oh my god, I can barely do half marathons, because I couldn't even do half marathons. I did a lot of challenges like 5Ks and 10K, 2 mile and 10K, all those kind of challenges in Winter Garden, Lake Eola, when I was living in Florida. And she was doing these amazing races, and I was like, oh my god, she's a badass. And I think she's been my early inspiration. And I'm lucky to talk to her via the podcast, share about her journey. And she's still going and getting podiums and doing her triathlon things, running marathons, and she is truly badass, you know. It's nice to see all of your friends do well. And if I just look back all of these episodes, then these are not just podcast episodes. And I don't know if it is for other people, but all the conversation I have had in this season 1 has given me something to hold on to. These conversations were the voices that I needed when I was doubting myself. All of these stories were the stories that moved me when I was feeling low and I needed some strength. And then there is Megan. When I talked to her in the podcast, she was chasing sub 3, and she was relentlessly trying to get that. And after talking to her, it just got a feeling like, what if we just set a goal and try to achieve it? And if we work hard enough, then that is possible. But for us to do that, we have to try. And Nicole, she is like most of us who got into running when that pandemic happened, COVID. And from a casual runner, she is here now doing all these marathons all over the world. She is running the Berlin Marathon, and she is also running the New York Marathon later in the year. And if you follow her, then you know that she's very passionate about running and about the community and helping others. And there is Salma. She is so busy. She is a physician, a mom, and she is chasing that sub 4 in the marathon. And despite her life being so hectic sometimes, with being a physician is not easy, and long hours, she's there pushing and chasing her goals, whether it is winter, summer, tiredness, fatigue. I saw her run at 10 p.m. at night sometime too. If you have a goal, then go get it. That's what I learned from her. And then there is Erin, who has come up in probably most of the episodes. I think the podcast with her was the breaking point for me to jump into ultra marathons and ultra running journey, because that episode we talked about a lot of DNF and talked about when we have goals and when we work towards it, and sometimes if we don't get it, then it's very hard, and then we have to rediscover that love for running again. And that resonated with me. And after sleeping on it the whole night after that episode, the next morning I registered for my first ultra, which I finished last month. And now looking back, 7 months ago, these were all just a dream. And today, it's a community of legends, of grinders, and all of my friends who prove in a hundreds or millions of ways that we all are capable more than what we think. I don't know about others, but season 1 gave me the voices that I needed to finish my race. Mostly thanks to Jessie and so many other episodes that had so many ideas for the races. And it gave me a belief that I'll carry into all of my future ultra runnings. Quitting is forever, but pushing forward changes everything. And with that, season 2 is coming. So many bigger stories, deeper conversation, and more fuel for my rest of the ultra running journey. But for today, thank you so much to the elites, the everyday warriors, my friends, and to you all listening. This podcast wouldn't exist without you. Here is to pushing horizon step by step. Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I'll see you again next time with another guest. Until then, happy running.